Good morning, YouTubers. This is Jason Dean at Film Fanatic. Yet again, another video. So, hope everyone's doing good. It's Wednesday. It's a kind of an overcasty day. So, yeah, lots of cool movies. I have been watching a ton of movies lately. I mean, I always, uh, I've talked about before in shows where kind of my favorite thing to do to kind of decompress from a day, whether it was like a busy day, or maybe it was not the best day or even a good day. But generally, my favorite thing to do at night is to I usually watch a movie at night. So typically when everything is done, I don't have anything going on or I'm kind of tired, I typically watch movies at night. I've never been a person to really, I mean, I can obviously watch movies anytime, but I've never really been a person to watch movies during the day for some reason. I've never really gotten into doing that. I like to, you know, sometimes I can be on the lazy side of things, so I have to kind of motivate myself to do work because I have a lot of work to do on my own. I mean, and it's mostly practicing and just stuff around that, or doing film stuff, promotion stuff, or things of that nature, or errands, or just everyday adulting things. But usually, I like to spend my time during the day trying to work on some kind of music thing. I like to usually, that's usually the day I'll do. During the day, I'll do, errands, or I'll take care of other business stuff. I try to work on music stuff like related to more so related to practicing and writing music, and then I have my own little routine, and then I go to work. I just recently started a new job, part-time job at the Montessori school, and that's been going great. I just started. This is my third day, and it's really pretty awesome so far. It's literally about 5 minutes from my house, so and it's a really cool schedule, so I can work around it. So typically during the day, I try to get up in the morning, drink some coffee, get going, and try to get into the practice zone and work on some music stuff, either drum set stuff. My priority for usually those kinds of things is to work on quantum stuff. Like typically, one of the things I typically do, like we had a show recently, and again, I want to really thank everybody for coming out to Ada's. That was a fantastic event, and I've been in contact with Ada's again about doing another show, and they seem pretty jazzed about the whole event. Everybody involved, method method from Methods from Madness, Spencer Roulard, who opened up the show, and also my great friend Halsey uh, was also involved, and it was a really great experience. It was really fun. I haven't organized a full show in quite a long time. The last time I did that, where I was, involved with kind of every aspect of the show, and kind of, I don't know, to a degree curating the show and putting it together and booking it and promoting it, was when we did our CD release show for Quantum, and that was a highlight for me for the summer. That was the my favorite event or gig that I was involved with. That was just really great. I had, it's these years and this time can be really trying for a lot of people, myself included, because of with things of dealing with this unprecedented time that we kind of live in with a pandemic and so forth, and going from 0 to 11, of where there was like everything was closed, and we went through this whole period of where gradually some things opened. and then it was up and down for a long time. And as musicians and artists, I feel like musicians and artists got hit the hardest. People in the service industry obviously got hit really hard too, but across the boards, it felt like people who were in the to a degree entertainment business got hit the hardest because their revenue and everything that they rely on is all centered on the gathering of large amounts of people or groups of people. So it was uh, completely a situation where it kind of derailed that entire kind of thing. So, but that show when we did the release show in June, it's hard to believe it was almost 3 or 4 months ago. It's crazy how time flies. But that show was really great, and I was really super excited about how a lot of friends and family came out, and we had a new album come out this year, and the it really helped the sales. The album has sold really well, pretty much finished with all the physical copies. We sold a lot more online this time, which was really great. That was always been a trying or kind of a puzzle of a situation to try to figure out how to get more sales online. But luckily, this year has helped out, and we were fortunate to play a lot of shows this year. And I learn, I always keep the mindset, even though I've been doing music for a long time, or at some capacity, in some capacity, whether I'm playing drums in a band or whatever it is, promotion, booking gigs, I am I'm always kind of in the mindset of like a student, where I'm always learning something new with this whole kind of industry, whether it's trying to book gigs or whether it's the dynamic of trying to work with lots of groups of people, lots of different personalities that you have to deal with in different settings. I play in about 6 bands, so that's a lot of different personalities to deal with. So I continually try to learn on how to deal with that and how complicated that can be, and also how incredibly of a fruitful situation that could be. So on that capacity, I learn continually about that, on how to socially kind of navigate that dynamic. And also, I've learned a lot about on the situation of just like booking gigs and booking shows. That's a newer thing for me. I've been doing it for quite a few years, about 6 years or so now on my own for Quantum. But that's a thing I continually learn, and I think I've gotten better at it. But there's still a lot to learn. And as far as every summer and every season, whenever we're in that in that space of wanting to promote shows and wanting to book shows and trying to exercise that I mean, I look at to a degree, for me at least, my favorite thing is to play shows, and I feel like it's almost like, I mean, it has a lot of great things, and it's a lot of work, and it's really really hard, but I almost think of it, make the analogy of playing shows for a band or a working project as being like, almost like you have a gym membership, and you're like, if you're going to the gym, like say you have a real concentrated area of where you want to be focused on, and you're maybe working these certain kinds of muscles, and you want to kind of build on that and build some strength, and then also tackle the things that you feel are not so, or maybe not up to par, and you have to go to the gym and work out, and and build that and build that body, or build that dynamic to where you want to be in a better place. And I feel like with gigs, for me, it's like, especially with Quantum, I feel like that band, I mean, is 100% of it, I feel like for me it's a live situation, and it's always developing, and it's always kind of shaping. It's always shape shifting to a degree and changing and hopefully evolving. But I feel like for that band in particular, particularly like the gigs that we play, I learn from every gig because we play a lot of variety of kinds of shows where we have to kind of adjust to a lot of situations. And for me, it's always the best format to test out material and to develop material. We we always cent we well Mike Whitehead and I, who also plays in the band and records all of our music. We we got in the habit about probably 4 or 5 years ago of before we recorded any material, we would like basically play it as much as we can, and especially around the scenario of live gigs, because we felt like that was a way of really exercising and building the tunes and developing, and also seeing, in like in terms of like real world application, if like the material is strong enough and if it like carries weight and some water to it. It's an entirely different thing of when you're rehearsing the material or writing it, or I'm just by myself practicing the material. And there might be moments of where I feel like, oh, there's something here, or there's something, that's being said that's significant, and the material is there, or the song is there. But for me, it doesn't um, really get measured or tested until we have the ability to perform that material out and seeing if it resonates with people and if it resonates with us in the live capacity, because there's so many different variables when you're playing live. The people are coming and going. Sometimes when they go to gigs, they're busy getting drinks, or they're busy getting food, or they're just walking in and out. There's changeover in audiences. There's people who are there just for music, and there's distractions. There's noise in the venue. There could be all kinds of other stimulation going on. There could be sound issues. There could be sound problems that maybe you don't have control over. Maybe you're playing a show and you're not in charge of running sound, or maybe you're just having technical difficulties. But at the end of the day, it's the ultimate way for me and for that band, for Quantum, to be able to basically test the material out. And I've learned a lot for that, because I don't we got in a habit of like never really recording material that I feel like can't stand up to that kind of a test. Like if it can hold water and carry some weight and actually be and resonate in a real positive way, then I usually won't record the material. And on the other side of things, there's been plenty of things, ideas for songs, or even tunes or arrangements of songs, or even whole songs, that when we've been in that live situation, it doesn't really translate. It doesn't really have the impact that I kind of envisioned. So, as many songs as we've kept, or that we've recorded, or that we've played over and over again, there's been an equal amount of songs and ideas and arrangements that we've also just kind of thrown out, because they're not really, that material might not have the voice that it needs for it to be, strong enough. So that's the process I love the most, because it's really the ultimate testing ground, and it's fun, but it's a lot of work, and it's both of those things at the same time. But to me, it's like when you do have those songs, or those or material that can really resonate with in a live setting, then it's like, okay, this is something here, and this is something that's significant, and that we should keep plugging away at. And I'm always, even songs that I've written for Quantum, or songs that we've been playing for a long time, I'm uh, I a lot of the times I'm always kind of chipping away at it and trying to develop the songs and make them as best as we can. And so on one hand, and it's funny because I see a lot of interviews with you know, well, like a lot of people. I mean, we all watch like YouTube videos and watch interviews with bands and stuff. And I was recently watching a video of you know this band that I love and I grew up listening to, and I just recently bought one of the newer albums, which I think is just amazing. But like a band, Cannibal Corpse, one of the one of the most iconic death metal bands in the world. And it was an interesting interview because he was talking about they were interviewing Paul Morkowitz, who's the drummer for Cannibal Corpse, and he was saying about how what they do and their whole thing is they take what they do really, really, really seriously. And they they got a lot of success when they were asked to be in the Jim Carrey movie. Uh, I think it was Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. There's a scene in that movie where Cannibal Corpse was basically in a club scene in that movie. And that movie went on to become a huge movie, but it also really ignited their career, and they became like really hugely popular commercially. And they're an amazing band. They've always been one of my favorite death metal bands. But he was talking about this idea where when they were approached by the studio and the filmmakers about being in this movie with Jim Carrey, they were really hesitant hesitant to do it. And they were saying because they felt like they would get maybe kind of made fun of and looked at as some kind of joke and be made fun of in that in that kind of frame of or in that telling of the story, or how they would be portrayed as like not being like a serious thing. And they took themselves really, really seriously, and they do. um, and it was interesting because what they do, obviously they're artists, and they are really, really great at what they do. But I sometimes come away when I see interviews with people, and I've seen that a lot of times, and a lot of the times, it's a stereotypes exist for a reason, because there's always like some kind of kernel of truth behind it. But you always have, two two or three big gigantic stereotypes that happened that are uh, you know synonymous with musicians, is that they like to party, and drink, drinking, and drug abuse has been rampant through in musicians' lives for years, and that they um, in a lot of ways are they have this like real slacker lifestyle, and that music isn't really, and what musicians do isn't really work. And then the other thing is usually musicians, when they're talking about their typical way of how they operate, they come across as like ultra, ultra, ultra serious, to and to a degree they come across as like super pretentious, on those key points about what inspires them, or what their whole like what makes that machine operate and how they function, and they come across as really, really pretentious. But so generally I feel like a lot of the times I see, and again, it's not a, I don't like to generalize people or groups, but there's definitely a a big degree of that. And one of the things that I find, just as an observation on my own, for what it's worth, is I generally feel like a lot of bands and musicians um, take themselves a little too seriously and forget to have fun, and to be, well, a sense of humility, but then also just not really take yourself so seriously. Look at it, like, for instance, like with Quantum. On one hand, I take, it's, for me, it's like therapy, and it's like really, really serious, and it's like a way of how I do express myself. I write songs, for what it's worth. People like it or they don't like it, and that's fine, because I know it can be weird or kind of fringe or whatnot. But I feel like for me, it's like on one hand, like a lot of the tunes, for instance, that I write are about, very personal things that I have experienced, or some of the songs express very personal views of mine. But I don't wear my heart on my sleeve with that band. I don't. I love amb- ambiguity. One of my favorite artists of all time, probably my favorite artist of all time, and a huge, huge inspiration, and continues to be an inspiration, is David Bowie. And one of the things that I always loved about his music is, like, you could hear a song of his, say like a tune, a song off of Stardust. And I had that experience so many times listening to his music, where I could listen to a song, you know, one week and get this feeling of, like, where the song is really, really positive, and it's got this, I feel elated after I've listened to it, and I feel charged. And maybe a couple months later, I'll listen to that same song, and I'll have this real melancholy reaction to the song. I'll have this totally different reaction, and then maybe I'll have a really sad reaction to the song, and it could be the same song. Or I'll have a thing of where, I want to when I want to party, I'll listen to the song, and it will put me in that same, in that frame of mind. Um, and I think it's because I feel like with David Bowie's, he obviously was a genius artist, but he also, like, wrote music that I feel on one hand was, like, intensely personal, but he a lot of his lyrics, like, they could be about love, or a breakup, or something really tragic that happens to him in his life, or something incredibly positive that happens in his life. But he leaves, I feel, as a songwriter, he has this level of, where it's real ambiguous, where that person or that fan, they can have their own like, they can have their own individual experience, and it can mean many different things. It can mean different things to them throughout their life, or throughout different stages, or their experiences. And it can, uh, even though for him as a writer, the song could be about something very, very specific. You and there's always a sense with his lyrics, and his poetry, and the way he uses melody, and his unorthodox way of writing songs, um, that you're you're never quite sure. At least for me, you're never quite sure what the song is about, and it can mean lots of different things. As opposed to, like, say, a singer songwriter who writes a song, and it's like it's about a girl he broke up with, or a girl who left him, or his dog died, and it's like right there, you know, in the forefront, and you know exactly what the song is about. There's no ambiguity about, or maybe even a sense. There's not a sense of mystery, and it could mean maybe a bunch of different things. But from his perspective, David Bowie's perspective, it could mean a lot, about a very specific thing. So I always love that approach. Like, if you're gonna write, and this again, it's just personal taste and preference, but like, if you're gonna write a love song, like, I have a couple of songs, for instance, with Quantum, that are essentially love songs, or experiences that I've had around love and loss. But I think most of the time, people hearing them, if they like the material or hearing those songs, they probably would never know that, because if they like the music and it resonates with them, and it's something they're attracted to, for me personally, the song could be very much about a very personal thing. But I would like, if they dig the music, I want them to have their own experience, and take away from it maybe, something else. And I like that. I like that, having things kind of ambiguous and a little bit mysterious, to where, it's not tattooed on your arm, like, okay, guys or girls, this is a love song, or this is about my dog dying, or about my house burning down. That can be great. I have nothing against people who write music, that way. But I think for me, on a personal level, there's a lot of music where that is the thing. And I always get a little bit turned off by that, because I like to have, I like a song that maybe has layers or something to it, that Not quite sure what it's about. It can hint at a lot of different things, but for me as a listener and a fan of music, it draws me in when it's a little bit more mysterious, and I'm not quite sure what it's going to be. And maybe over time, I'll figure it out. But part of the beauty is not really knowing. And and then the other thing that I feel that happens with musicians generally is that bands and musicians, a lot of people that I know personally too, but generally people take what they do too darn seriously, you know, and they get they can get to a degree a certain level of pretentiousness around it and really protective in that it becomes this, you know, whatever art they're creating or whatever band they're creating, it kind of becomes this like sacred cow, and it can't really be, you know, it shouldn't be tarnished with, and that it's like sacred territory, um, and you can't pick at it. And for me, I feel like it's totally the opposite. I feel like, on one hand, um, well, I don't really feel that significant. I just do what I do and try to do what I do, and hopefully it's good, and sometimes it is or not. But I don't feel like I'm particularly anything important in that regard. I love what I do, and I'm 100% behind it, and it's my favorite outlet. But I don't, at the big scheme of things, I don't, I kind of look at it as it's kind of like this weird, silly joke, you know, and 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 I try to have a sense of humor with everything, like with some of the material in the songs, where I don't look at it as a sacred cow. I look at it as it's a personal thing, but it should be fun, and it's okay to make fun of it, and it's okay to poke at it, and you, if you have a preconceived, or you start developing this notion that it is a sacred thing, it's okay to like deface it and throw it out and start over again. And that's part of the reason too, a lot with, like, say, the theatrical element of the band, of where I, you know, use masks and wigs and have try to have a show. That's another aspect of where I try to show that, well, hey, you know, I these songs can mean something to me, or they do, and it is a very personal thing on one level. But at the end of the day, I'm also like trying not to take it too seriously, and not to forget to have lots of fun in the process. And hopefully that will resonate with people and not like come across as this thing of like, oh, he's like a pretentious artist. So it's always that balance. But that's one thing I always feel like happens a lot, and I don't believe like what I do has some kind of like sacred quality to it. I think it's part of the fun of it and charm is that you can poke at it, and it can be, you know, ridiculed, but because I don't take myself that seriously in a lot of ways, and I'm at a lot of the times I would be the first to kind of ridicule my own work. Um, and again, that being redundant, on the other side of things, for me, it's very very personal, and it means everything to me. It means the world to me. But it's that balance. So, and I feel like there's that balance factor. So it's a funny process, but at the end of the day, I don't, you know, I don't put it on. I try not to put it on some pedestal. I look at. It's very easy for musicians to, uh, an artist to do that, and not to and to laugh at themselves or laugh at what they create, and to forget to laugh at what they do and what they create, and to lose. And it's also easy to lose that kind of like childlike perspective of where it is kind of magical, but it's also fleeting, and it's kind of silly and goofy, and uh, and you know, it's just this goofy thing. So, but the so what I was saying too with the Ada show, like that was really great, and I was really psyched with all the people that came out, and the energy was just pretty fantastic. There was really the variety of music was killer, and so we're gonna do. I've been in touch with the folks at Ada's. They were really great. They were really great on helping out with promotion. They did a ton of promotion, which was really great. Sometimes that's an issue with certain clubs or venues, is that they leave it up to the artist, which is great and fine. They leave it up to the artist to do the promotion. But I think it's pretty essential for it to be both on both ends, where the venue and the artist should be working together to a degree, but also doing their own work to promote those events. Because if it's a good thing, and it is successful, it's gonna help everybody. So, and the other factor too is we didn't have a whole lot of time to do that, promotion aspect, because it was like like a week and a half, or just shy of 2 weeks to promote it. So everybody kind of really pitched in, and it was very cool. So we'll be doing another show at some point there, and and then this Sunday we have our last, as far as I know, maybe we'll get in one more, but it's probably our last show, our last Quantum show at Lulu's in Rockland, just because it's today's the first day of fall, which is crazy, and it's gonna be getting pretty cold out. It's already getting a lot. The temperatures has dropped quite a bit, so this will be our last gig at Lulu's on Oak Street in Rockland, and it'll be from 3 to 6. So I think what we're gonna do is I'm gonna get my buddy Mike to bring his recording gear, and he's gonna record the show just to have and record, because it's a longer set. It's a 3 hour set. Typically for these shows too, like, we always play long sets, and then like say for Ada's we only play like an hour, but usually like for the longer shows that takes a lot more work, because I have a lot of prep time, and I have to I work on it every day, especially when I know we have a show coming up that's 3 hours. It's a lot of material, it's a lot of times, and we play all original tunes, so I try to spend every day working on tunes that that maybe we haven't played in a while, or kind of revisiting certain tunes, just practicing. I mix that up. That's probably the main focus, especially when we have a show coming up that's 3 hours. And also, I you know I always have a song on the back burner that I'm writing, and I've been writing a new song, and I've been working that. Um, so I always try to change things up a little bit, and work on that. But mainly the focus is, especially when there's gigs, is to build and get the sets together, especially for a longer night or day of music. So, and then I usually there's also lots of practicing, and that I try to do around drum set, which is my main instrument, and all those different things that entails. I've been playing drums for quite a long time, but it's still my main instrument. But I feel like I'm in this student headset all the time, or headspace. So there's so many things to learn. There's like so many things that I get inspired by, or something new that I hear, or something old. So I'm always trying to like chip away at that. So getting back to the main reason of the show, um, this was another movie I just saw, and I'd heard about it. I don't think I never have seen this. New Year's Evil. It's just incredible. Definitely, I've never seen it before, and I bought this along with the other reviews I've been doing. I've been reviewing a series of movies that I've never seen before. And this is a killer like exploitation movie. Um, and this came out in 1980, and it's like you can't. Every movie that pretty much every movie I've been seeing, especially movies that I haven't seen before, it's always either from like 1975. They seem to always be from the years 1975 to like 1985, like within that period. And it's just amazing. Like this is such a great like horror exploitation slasher film, and it's it's from the company Canon, and Canon was this like company that made a lot of super low budget movies in the 70s and 80s. they were most well known for doing a lot of the martial arts movies in the 80s and like movies that I grew up, a lot of the real kind of cheeseball ninja movies. Into the Ninja, Revenge of the Ninja, American Ninja, all starring the legendary Shokusugi. Uh, I did a review back a while for one of my favorite movies from that period, Ninja 3: The Domination, which was like just such a terrible movie, but just amazing. And I consider that to be just like a really crappy kind of exploitation movie because it ties in. It's a horror movie, but then it's a martial arts movie, and they tried to like rip off Exorcist and tie it in with like this ninja theme, and it's like completely ridiculous, but it's amazing. And I remember when I saw that on Blu-ray when I bought it, I just couldn't believe it because that was a movie I used to watch all the time as a kid. And I did a review on Ninja 3: The Domination. I think it was like last year, but this movie was released by the same company, and this is like straight up like slasher movie, and it's amazing. It's like it was directed by Emmett Alton. Um, the cinematographer Thomas Ackerman, actors Kip Niven, Grant Kramer, Tuof O'Connell, and like I said, this is 1980, and it is like the epitome of 80s. Like the music is just amazing. The Blu-ray transfer of this is just so great. The kills are really great. It's really really suspenseful. It's and it's a really good. The ending is it's got a lot of great twists and turns. It's not really predictable. The characters are great, and there's a lot of suspense. And considering again, it's like very very low budget, and it's definitely cheesy. There's some really dated things about it, with the acting kind of terrible, but the story is great. The story is great, and the music is just great. There's all these scenes where there's like this '80s kind of almost like punk band playing for this New Year's Eve party, where these in this big club where all these murders are happening, and the kills are great, and the killer in this movie is really really great. There's a scene of where for a while he wears this clown mask that is completely terrifying. Um, and I never seen this movie. I think I remember hearing about it when I was a kid, and I remember seeing the cover. But I had seen a thing on YouTube about this movie, and I was like, "Oh, this looks awesome!" And I got this at Bull Moose, and I was super excited. And it totally delivers the goods. The transfer of this on Blu-ray is just amazing, and it's got some really great, interesting special features. A lot of the people that were involved with this film went on to become fairly successful actors, and this was like their first time around. But tremendous movie, 1980. Man, what a good year. And again, like I said, a lot of these movies that I've been covering are from that. Like yesterday, I did a review on Born for Hell, another killer, horror exploitation movie, and that movie was terrific. I had never seen that one, and that came out in 1976, and this is like 1980. So just an amazing period for all things exploitation and anything related to horror or slasher movies. These kinds of movies are these horror movies in particular in the 70s to about 89 or so. Probably my favorite. This is my favorite period of horror, and just so great. And I feel like without all of these great movies that came out, and there was literally thousands upon thousands of movies during that period that came out in this genre. Horror now would not be what it is, because there's always, these movies always creep up and influence modern day horror films. But again, definitely check this out. New Year's Evil, 1980. You can't go wrong with this movie. This Blu-ray is killer. So thanks again. This is Jason Dean. If you get a chance, check out my YouTube channel, and if you can like and subscribe, that would be great. I appreciate the support. Have a great day.